think that DNA tests should be made compulsory.
Yep.
Joining us in the studio today is our very own counselor and also one of our leaders here at Z, one of our technical heads, Mr. Michael Jokoto. And also we have Ngozi Boateng joining as well. Today we are discussing the extended version. We'll also look at how it affects families, how the DNA results end up affecting families and all of that. So, Mr. Jokoto, welcome once again.
Thank you. Pleasure to be back.
Yes. We missed you last week in the studio, and it's good to really have you back.
Thank you.
All right. And Ngozi Boateng.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Your chilibi. Anyway. Right. So let's get right into it. Last week we started and we got to a point, and then today we are here to continue to keep it going. Again, we'll take a listen to some of what the people on the street had to say, and then we'll come back as well as and when. But then again, for those who are just tuning in today or just joining the conversation today, maybe we might just want to take it back a bit. And it all started from when we decided, or when we kept hearing continuously that people, renowned people for that matter, or a lot of people were finding out at a very later date that children that they have loved all their years and catered for and catered to actually end up not being theirs after whatever events that come up and
Necessitates.
Is that the word I'm looking for?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, necessitates. I wasn't sure. Necessitates a DNA test comes out to say that the results don't match or they are not compatible. Therefore, they are not their children. And we know renowned people in this country who have fallen victim to this. We will not want to remind them of their sorrow or their pain, and even international as well. Over the week, I think Mr. Jokoto shared an article from Don Jazzy with me, where he also affirms that so it should be, because a lot of the women are using it or lying, deceiving men basically with these things. And you know what they say, that every mother knows the father of their child.
Definitely.
Rarely do the mothers not have an idea who the fathers of their children are. So today we'll take it up from there, and then we'll look at how it bothers or how it affects families, right? Last week I believe we ended where we spoke of what to do when you find out, right? That was where we ended. What you need to do, and should it even break the family? Like Mr. Jokoto said, the statistics actually shows that less than 40%, if I'm correct, actually are able to mend their homes after this. Majority of them lose their homes, because then the whole issue of deceit comes to play, and then they are not even willing to go through to therapy and to seek the help that we need. So that's what we are going to pick it up from today. Are we okay?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, great. So being a counselor, I would want to begin with you, Mr. Jokoto.
Sure.
You deal with these things, and I actually asked you if you had experienced anything of the sort, if you had dealt with any couple who were in such a fix, and how it went by. So if we can take it from there.
Okay. So, with the issue of how it affects the families, like we said the last week, it's often just a few who are able to move on and get over it. Especially when it has to do with the men, some get to know at a very later time in life, and the fact that they have lived a life for a very long time becomes a difficult thing to mend, and so it affects the family in the long run. Truth of the matter is, it is not just the deceit or the apparent lie that affects the relationship.
Okay.
But it's a complex gamut of things that very often dealing with becomes very difficult.
Okay.
Now, even if you deal with one, let's say you've dealt with the deceit part and the partner is okay, the fact that it has happened could extend beyond emotions, sometimes feelings. The feeling that the partners had becomes a problem.
Okay.
So anytime there's a slight, misunderstanding, things begin
comes
to
up.
come up,
Yeah.
and it makes holding that relationship or partnership together very difficult. The cracks continue until they become unmendable. So it is something that is very, very difficult to put together when it comes to the relationships. So honestly, it's very difficult. It's a very difficult thing. That's why it's very few people that
Are able to
are able
overcome
to
it.
overcome it. And those who are able to overcome it also, some of them, I would say, just manage through it. They look at some, they look at their reputation, they look at their religiosity or spirituality and some factors, and then they try to manage through it. But
Wow.
most often than not, you find a lot of them folding up.
So then, with a bit where some of them, because of what they stand to lose, and how society might view them, the
Exactly.
stigmatization that will come with the whole issue, they decide to manage it. Do you think which is actually a better way to deal with this situation? In this part of the world, a lot of people do not entirely, they are not open to the idea of therapy.
Yeah,
It's fairly new.
absolutely.
Because then why am I going now to air my dirty laundry to
in
somebody, a total stranger, to tell me what to do? Our egos will not even allow us to do so. So
Yeah.
what is the best one aside therapy? We know that therapy is the ultimate, but then is the managing bit, doesn't, like you said, it doesn't last.
Exactly.
So what do we do?
All right. So, like you said, in a traditional setting, it is said that you don't wash your dirty linen in public. And so it becomes difficult to even open up for full therapy.
Yeah.
So even in counseling, there are certain things that they won't tell you. There are things that are bottled up, So you find out, okay, you have been able to patch up to a certain level, but deep down there are things that are hidden, like I said, because it's a mind thing. The partners go back, and probably the man has reservations, even sleeping with a wife. So at the back of his mind, what if this woman has been doing it all this while and still doing it?
Right.
So am I not exposing myself to sexually transmitted diseases and all that kind of stuff? So that begins to play out in the mind of the man, and resentment begins to happen, and then the gulf begins to widen. The wife also feels, I am not being satisfied, I need to be satisfied, so it brings in a whole lot of things. So as far as I'm concerned, it is better to open up and let everything bear.
Right.
And if it is mendable, fine. If it is not, then there is nothing anybody can do. But we always pray that, you see, it takes two to tango. Whoever is the culprit should first be able to accept the fault and be apologetic.
Okay.
And beyond being apologetic, must show signs of true remorse and change. that is when you can be able to bring the other party on board to also find a way to forgive, let go, and move on.
Right.
That process usually takes time, but depending on the individuals involved, it could always be fixed. There are people who also, because of ego, would say, no matter what, it is not going to work, never again. No matter how remorseful
You are.
but most often than not, if we have that ingredient of remorse and the desire to change, it becomes easier to mend. But if you ask which will be the best, I would say it depends on the parties involved. If the parties involved are really ready, to take the therapy and understand what the situation is and move on, then it is possible to use counseling to patch them up. But if both parties are just not ready,
Nothing can be
there's
done.
nothing that you can do about it.
Okay. Wow. So, for instance, you know how some men step out of their homes to father children outside of the homes. I know
Yeah.
that it can't be the same thing.
Yes.
But let's say that something of this sort has happened. The woman has also stepped out of the marriage and brought in another child to the man and says that this is your child, right? So that you're raising the child up onto a point where something happens, you find out that this child is truly not mine. But then you, on the other hand, have also stepped out of the marriage to also go have a baby. And I'm saying this because on Sunday, my friends and I were having this discussion because they listened to the show. And so
Okay.
it just came up, and then one of them was like, okay, so most of it, when it comes to the issue of DNA,
Yeah.
is always the woman at fault because you're the one who carries the child. How about the men who step out of their homes to have babies as well?
Okay. So I think last week I made an allusion to that, and I said that it is unfair
Okay.
for a man in a marriage to step out, have a baby without letting the wife know. It's you're unfaithful in the first place, and just as you will be hurt if your wife goes out to sleep and bring you a child, you should know that it's the same effect on the woman. So these things happen. These things happen, but we, like I said, we need to be open in the marriage. It is much easier for the women to accept than for the men to accept. But it doesn't mean that it is right for the men to go out and bring in, and then it is not right for the women
To do same.
Both parties should not on any occasion
Do that.
do that. But if it does happen, there should be the ability to open up and let the partner know that, look, this is the situation.
But you know how we can be as humans. Someone who
That's
sits
it.
on their own what's the word I'm looking for? Their own part of the deal, or their sin, and come and attack you because you have decided to make yours open.
Exactly. So yes, that is there, but the ideal situation is that both parties should be open, to let their partners know. There could be moments of weakness,
Right.
in situations. I mean, one thing that everyone should try as much as possible to live with is that there are moments of weakness, but it doesn't mean that when there are moments of weakness, we should take advantage and make mistakes. But when mistakes do happen, we should be bold enough to come forth and open up. It is almost in our system. Let me put it that way. In the past, the man is always right.
Yeah.
but the woman is not right.
Mm-hmm.
So when the man goes out to bring a
He's
child
the man.
home, he's the man. So everybody is supposed to accept that it is right. But when the woman goes out, it is trouble. It is not allowed. But, you know, in our modern society, and not just in our modern society, but actually in reality, the two are one.
Yeah.
And so anything that is happening in that relationship concerns both parties. So if there is an outside issue, the other partner should know. And there should be a way around it to work it out. When we go back, way back into time, you realize that when Sarah was not giving birth in the Bible, it was Sarah who advised Abraham
To go
to
for
go
Hagar.
for Hagar. Now, when there was trouble in the house, it was this same Sarah who said, send her out, send her packing.
Me and I said yes, but now
I'm saying no. And Abraham was reluctant. But when he asked God, God said, listen to your wife. Why would that be? Because the two are one.
Yeah.
Yes, there was a mistake. And God will always approve what the two that are one have agreed on. So it is important for a married couple to understand that it is not you and you, but they are one.
Us.
It is us. So if there is an issue of a child coming from outside, which is illegitimate, but it's a mistake that has to be made known. I mean, you make it known. Of course, at that moment, everybody would have their anger buttons sparked.
Yeah.
But like I said last week, once there is a situation like that, if both parties cannot settle their issues amicably,
Yeah.
they look for a third party that is trusted, or a counselor, or a pastor or something that can mediate effectively and ensure that there is peace.
Right. Interesting. Ngozi, you wanted to add something?
No, when he said it was easier for women to accept outside babies, I feel like it is not easier. I think women have just, a lot of women have been pushed into accepting outside babies, not because they want to, but because they've been guilted into it. You know, family will tell you, oh, you're Bema. You know, it's fine. Bema, dear son, not here. You know, take care of the child. But it's not easy for them at all. I'm sure it might be it will be hard seeing, you know, the result of your husband's indiscretion every day, and you're supposed to take care of it. Yeah, it's hard though. It's hard.
Like I said, it's not easy. You know, just as it is not easy on the man to accept, to see.
Yeah, but you see, the men expect that. The women accept it easily.
No, I think it's because of the way
the
system
has been. We've been conscientized a type of way.
You know, it's like the man is the man, and he's always right. Whether it's, you know, so the women at a point were conditioned to accept, even when you were entering into marriage in those days. I mean, you are conditioned to accept. If your husband decides to take a second wife, a third wife, a fourth wife, you have no complaint. You just have to accept
and go with it,
and go with
the
it.
head.
You know, so it's something that has happened for a long time. It has spiraled down until now. But in this our dispensation, I always say that once things have changed, you must also change and adjust to make sure that you have a successful relationship or partnership. And one of the ingredients that make a successful relationship is communication.
Yeah, definitely.
No matter how serious it is, you need to communicate, and you must always be prepared for the repercussions. Again, both parties should know when to giving, when to show remorse,
Right.
when to accept guilt, and then when to accommodate.
But isn't not so just like we've
Yeah.
been saying that society has made it such a way that if a man errs or steps out of the marriage is acceptable, but a woman can't do so. Is that not the reason why women, for instance, last week I gave a scenario
Yeah.
that if a woman has been sexually abused and then she gets pregnant out of that, she's unable to voice out to her partner to even say that this happened
Yeah.
because society, clearly you would made out to be a liar.
Absolutely.
Your partner would not believe that this actually happened. We see in movies where in the presence of the husband,
Yeah.
the woman is abused, and once you end up pregnant, you the woman become the enemy.
Enemy,
yeah.
Forgetting that it was the man's responsibility to have protected you from those hoodlums whatsoever.
Yeah.
So is it not the same society that has made it such that when a woman falls out of the home or the marriage, just like you said, a moment of weakness, sometimes people are not able to get out of that in that instance till after the deed has been done? Is it not society that has made it such that the woman cannot come clean because no matter what you say, you knew what she did, but the man didn't know what he did. It was a mistake for the man to have, but for a woman, you knew exactly what it is that you were doing.
Yep. I want to even add to what you said, because there's a scenario of a couple long time ago. My mom used to be a marriage counselor.
Okay.
And she spoke on something like this. It was an armed robbery situation. And the woman was assaulted right in front of her husband. He said he was done with the wife.
Can you imagine?
Yeah.
Meanwhile, you saw they had machetes, they had guns,
And probably
they had
she had
knives
to give herself in order
to
to
save
you.
his life. But the moment the thieves went, so let's say something like that happens outside, it's very easy for a woman like that to hide it, because this one that you even saw that they were about to kill me, or and you still said, oh, even with that cry, I'm still done with you. How do you face something and then something like that, and then be able to be honest to your partner and come and say, this is what happened outside, and so and so, especially when we see the amount of violence, the domestic violence against women, the femicide. We see it is happening daily around the world. Women are being killed for very small reasons. So how do you manage yourself in a situation like that?
Yes. So
How do you even come out to talk?
Exactly.
To come clean.
So like you said, society has made it a little difficult for such things to be reported. Like you said, I mean, it's how our system has, molded the marital institution in general from old. There was a lot of. It's not that there is not supposed to be power in the hands of the men, but I believe it gets to some points the men abuse that power, that is invested in them. I mean, as the head of the house, you are the prophet of the home, you are the leader of the home, you are the manager of the home at the same time. So it's a complex gamut of things put together as a man. Now, like the case you alluded to, I mean, I've had one such situation. The case of an armed robbery, and then the woman ended up being raped.
Right.
Now, after the whole incident, the man says, the way you were moaning and enjoying, I realized that you were actually enjoying, so the marriage is ended. But this is a moment of great weakness.
Yes.
No matter what, as the head of the house, as the man of the house, these things happen. Imagine they came in and shot you.
And your wife did nothing.
And your wife did nothing. What then happens? So one of the things that the ingredients that may bring such thoughts is that the partners don't trust themselves, you know. But in most cases, when the partners trust themselves and they have that deep understanding of each other, he knows that naturally my wife wouldn't have done this.
Yeah.
But, you know, the situation is something that she can do nothing about. So we move on, we accept, we move on. But there are some men on our penadia yedada. You know, so this opportunity brings itself and he takes advantage to, you know, just use the slightest thing to break apart. I would always say that in this dispensation, as much as possible, it is better to come clean. Because if you do not come clean and in the future it becomes apparent, now going back to right or wrong becomes extremely difficult. Why didn't you tell me then? You know, so then it becomes, okay, so I have lived a lie all this while. You know, so it's a very dicey situation. And that is why I say that when it gets to that point and both parties cannot be able to communicate or talk, then they would need a third party
to come in.
If it's a family, what do you call it, member that can put them together, if it's a counselor, if it's what do you call it, a cleric or whatever, that can bring them together so that they can settle that issue once and for all. You know, if the relationship will break or break apart, it may either be now or in the future.
Or later.
So it is better to let it out now, and if the relationship will end there, it will end, or it goes later and then breaks apart. Yes, there are some who might have gone through it, kept it, and it never came out and everything went all right. Yes, there are a few that happened like that and happens like that. But you may also not be lucky. In this day and age, especially where DNA is all over the place, it's better to come clean early on and let it be sorted out once and for all.
All right. So now there's the part where I saw a movie. So I did not know of the movie. But just like I said, my friends and I discussed it over the weekend. So one person suggested I see the movie. It's a Nollywood movie.
Okay.
So I saw it on Sunday. And this was the case. The scenario I asked or I created last week, where the man is sterile, but he is too scared to let the family know. So he agreed with the wife. No, even in the movie, he did not agree with the wife. He had his friend. He confided in a friend and had the friend come into their home when he had told the wife that he was going on a business trip to come and have his way with the wife to get her pregnant. Now he comes back, acts like everything is okay. The wife, being scared to tell the husband that this has happened because she does not know how he's going to take it and all of that, did not also mention it to the husband that somebody came in here and I was sexually abused or whatever. So she keeps it to herself. And then the husband, on the other hand, comes home, acts like nothing has happened, and then is constantly asking the wife to check again. Maybe God has blessed us this time. We are pregnant. And she checks, and yes, she was pregnant. The husband was over the moon. Now everything happens, and you know how mother-in-laws or some mother-in-laws are able to say that this child looks different from they have nothing
like my son.
Not just my son, but no trait of theirs comes from my family, so they are not my children.
They are natural instincts.
So this mother-in-law says this right from the day the child is born. And so the wife realizes that this mother-in-law has been on my neck asking for a baby and everything. Now I have a child, and she's saying that this child does not belong to them. Now she's in a dilemma, right? So something happens, they go to the hospital. Yes, mother can't donate blood. Father is not compatible. So now it makes sense to her. And she was also hopeful that it wouldn't have been the abuse that caused the pregnancy. So at the back of her mind, that was lingering as well. Now the guy's family says that we said it. You cheated on my son, da 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 da. And this man is quiet.
Oh.
She's quiet. The guy in question, the friend of the husband, at a point could not take it anymore and came out with the truth.
Oh, wow.
So in this instance, what then happens?
Oh.
Because this is a man who wanted to cover his shame, so exposed his wife to whatever diseases that his friend could have infected the wife with, and also the whole ridicule, the family ridicule and societal ridicule, the shame and everything, brought it upon this lady without her consent or without her, having an idea or anything. Who now do we blame?
The man.
And that's easy for you to say.
It's the man.
But you see, in this instance, excuses are being made. All of a sudden, the family of the man now want to accommodate the child after the humiliation that they put this lady through. So in this instance, what happens?
It's a difficult situation. I mean, in the first place, like I said, marriage is about communication. If the man has a condition that makes it impossible for him to make babies with a wife, he should come clean with the wife that this is the situation, my dear. It is impossible, but I believe in God. I believe God can make a way for us, and so let's explore the ways and means that we can be able to make babies. And if both parties also agree that we are going to adopt, so be it.
Yeah.
If both parties agree that we can have a medical, procedure that will grant us the babies, fine. If both parties also agree that, okay, my friend can, and that one is almost always a very difficult thing to do, I mean, seeing your friend come into, it's a difficult, that can also, at a point in time, cause the breakup. Because, the thought of somebody else sleeping with your wife and she has a baby and all that can become, a tormenting affair.
Right.
That would really bring a lot of problems. So it's, in the first place, I would say that this one falls squarely in the domain of the man. Yes, you have an issue, but the solution is not to create further issues. Because this one, you have created a lot of issues for the woman who is innocent. So why do we go blaming the woman? Well, the only blame I could put on her was the fact that she also gave in to the man's friend.
So the guy came in a mask. So
Like a
she
thief.
thought they had been robbed and she had been assaulted.
Okay.
And so she did not mention it to the husband.
Okay, so it appeared like a robbery,
Yes.
right? Okay,
Yes.
so this is the issue. It appeared like a robbery. So this one, how are you going to blame the woman? You understand? It will be difficult to put blame on the woman in this instance.
Right.
The man who knew what he was doing should be fully blamed for it. And if once he knew that this is my plan, you should have your backup plan when issues happen. Because you see, there's one thing about blood that people do not know. Blood speaks. So if the mother-in-law, whose blood is supposed to be in that baby,
Yeah.
is not speaking, that
She knows.
Yes, she would know. There's supposed to be a connection. That connection will be there. It happens in families. I mean, you see your sister's children, you see your brother's children. That connection is immediately there. It is not the same thing as somebody else's children.
Right.
You know, so the blood speaks. And therefore, once you know that these things would definitely pop up, you should have your plan B to ensure that if it crops up, you have ways and means to manage it, since you have decided to keep it a secret, which is not the best way out.
Okay.
You know, because from one problem, it will go to another problem. And it will get to a point you will have no option but to let the secret out. And you see, if it hadn't happened this way, even as it had happened this way, it will be difficult for the woman to forgive and to let go. You know,
She actually said she was going to take her child and go
and move out.
Yeah, I think that's the best
because
thing.
that is her child regardless.
Yeah.
She
Exactly.
carried the child, so she said she was taking the child, and like I said, the mother-in-law now and the guy's family wanted to now accept her and cover the shame of the man. Still, she said no. Nobody should come close to her child.
And yes, I mean, it's a difficult situation in that it will take a lot of counseling for such a relationship to come together, and it will take a lot of prayer and all those kind of things, because it's a whole gamut of things. And again, it could also be that this friend may also wake up one day and say, look, this is my blood.
He was actually frequenting their home.
Yes, because like I said, blood speaks. You know, so he would always look out for his blood. I mean, he came clearly, you know, and so it's a gamut of problems that the man has created for himself. Okay, so I would always not advise that things like this are done in secret. If both of you agree on this matter, then it becomes the three, you know, people involved have agreed. And most often than not, there are, what you call it, legal agreements to ensure that maybe in future, nobody comes to say that I did this and this belongs to me. No. So that everybody is on the same page. That is between all the parties that are involved, which is not something I would advise anyway.
Okay, but then would you advise for siblings to do that so the man's brother in this instance? So instead of probably going for IVF or going for a sperm donor outside, we would say that, let's keep it in the family. So my husband has a brother or even an uncle sometimes. Let him donate his seed for us to, use to make a baby for myself or for my family.
If it is an IVF, well, that nowadays that's technology. It's working all right. But you see, there's something about somebody else sleeping with your wife.
No, but wait, another way that people can do it is they use the syringe.
Yeah.
The syringe method.
Yes.
So if she's ovulating, and then the man gives a sample, and then you just.
So that one is more medical.
Yeah.
You know, so that one is not, usually not. But the fact of someone else sleeping with
your wife
when you are still there, I mean, in the picture.
No, I'm saying, you see, like the IVF way, but with IVF, the man's, how do I say, the man's
semen. Sperm.
Yes, I think the sperm is taking out like just one, and that's put directly into the egg.
Yes.
Yes, but with this one, I've seen
a whole.
It was a series actually. A long time ago on BET, I think Be Mary Jane or something, where she had finished something with someone, and she stored it in the freezer for a later time because maybe she wants to get pregnant. I know they say there are some people who do that too. So during that, when they are ready, they thaw it and then they use the syringe and then you do. So I feel like it would be better if you're doing you want your brother to impregnate your wife. It would be better to do a method like that than to actually have your
The
brother,
sexual-
the whole it will just, you won't be able to unsee that.
Yes, that is what I was driving at. If there are medical methods that work well, you know, but actually in some families that and in some traditions that exists, that if your brother is unable to, you know, birth children, you could
Have him
call
do
on
it.
call on a brother, you know, to impregnate your wife, so that it remains a brother or an uncle or something.
Yeah.
But does it
So
not
really-
also still go to the fact where at the end of the day they still come to claim the child?
That is why it's a family thing. You know, if it's an agreed family culture, that one, I mean, we cannot do much about it. But it is not something that is easy for just a normal couple.
Yeah.
If it's not something that is a culture in your place or tradition, it is not something that you can easily do. I mean, just see your brother and say, sometimes your brother will be like, come on, how?
Because this thing that I asked this because there's a story or a problem that somebody wrote to a community that I belong to, Dang community, and she said that her mother-in-law, so they are having difficulty making babies or getting pregnant. And so she suggested that they do the IVF thingy. She and her husband have actually gone through the whole thing. So they were yet to get a donor.
Okay.
Then all of a sudden, her mother-in-law comes home and says that instead of going to get a total stranger, why not let your younger brother-in-law, so that's her husband's younger brother, do this instead. And her problem is the fact that she would prefer the total stranger because at the end of the day, there's going to be no physical connection or whatever. And then they are not going to have any physical contact. Also, there's the non-disclosure agreement. Plus, the guy in question has no idea who she is and cannot come back in the nearest future or even whatever years to come and claim the child. Whereas with the brother-in-law, this is someone who would be seeing my child every day. What if he wakes up one day and says that, you know what, I can't keep quiet anymore, I want my child. Even if they decide to sign an agreement today, she feels that it's family, and the way they are in their family, her husband's family, it would be so easy for this gentleman to come up one day and say that I am claiming my child.
Yes.
And the agreement that they had in the past would have no effect or no impact whatsoever. So she doesn't want it. She would rather prefer a total stranger. So in this instance, how do you even deal with something of the sort?
You see, so that's why I started by saying that I wouldn't advise this as an option at all. You know, because it brings a lot of problems.
Right.
If the IVF or medical methods are available, those are things, especially IVF, people donate, they don't even know
Who they are donating
who they are
to.
donating to. The only problem I have with IVF,
You marry your child in future.
someday, and you may not know it.
But will that be a sin if you have no idea? I don't know that Ngozi is the egg I donated to your wife. And then I meet her, hey, no, if I donated egg, I can't marry you. Well, my son meets Ngozi and wants to marry her.
So, that is why I have a problem with the whole IVF thing.
Okay.
You know, it's difficult, but unless it is well managed, such that, you know, the area of donation, even then, we are in a global world.
Right.
Someday, and that is why I always say that blood speaks. You know, you see, because probably you are blood, when you meet somewhere, both of you would communicate.
There's a connection,
That communication might bring you together in a way and manner that you would not even understand why you are together. So because you are man and woman, you think that, okay, probably it's because we need to be together as man and wife.
Hey, this connection, what does it feel like? Yeah. The way my mind has traveled. No, honestly. Because
where shall cousin be?
Because this thing that Mike is saying, not to digress, but I mean, it's like that. Like, how does it really feel like?
You see, it's more like a spiritual connection.
Hey, wait.
You are so tied up that you see the person, and it's like you've known each other for so long. So that tells you that no, there is something deeper, connecting both parties together. So that's the problem I have with the IVF. But it's a medical thing that is helping, a lot of homes as well. But I would rather push for IVF when the man also has semen. It's just that probably
it's not potent
there's
enough.
a difficulty, so that one is good enough. But getting another, usually there are problems, but it doesn't stop the fact that it's a solution.
So then, with all the conversations that we've had from last week till today, I remember he's saying that you would actually wish that it would be added to the regular tests that are done in the hospital, like a mandatory test that you can't go without not doing, right?
Yeah.
What happens now? Everything granted. You have gone through the test. It says everything is correct, everything is accurate, but then there's still something lacking.
Something like what?
Something lacking in the sense that from the beginning, right? You have gone through the test. You know that some tests can be falsified.
Yes.
So then when you find out eventually, sometimes it takes 2-3 people or three tests to be able to ascertain the true identity of the child.
Yes.
You find out that, okay, the first one was a scam, the second one was a scam, or the first one was a scam, the next two that you have done are not scams. Who do you take on, your partner or the institution that conducted the test in the first place?
In this instance, because the issue of DNA is a lot legal now, it behooves on the institutions that perform the tests to ensure that they are doing it and getting it right. And so most of them don't take just one sample. They take a couple of samples to ensure that they have gone through the tests and ensured that this is the right results. And most of them, they do and do again. They do first and second, and to ensure that it is accurate. So in the case where one is not right, it is easy to take the lab on legally for deceit.
Okay.
So that's why a lot of the labs are very careful to ensure that, because they know the situation,
they could find themselves
in.
Wow.
So they are it's something that they take very seriously. And again, last time I noticed Mama Linda was trying to explain a little bit about the DNA, the whole thing.
Yeah.
It's the basic composition of the human being. So if there's an advocacy for it to be done at birth, there's nothing wrong with it at all.
With that. Okay.
Because it is just the basic building block of the human being. So it's just telling us that, okay, you are from this family and you are from that father, that mother. So there shouldn't be any problem making it compulsory. Okay. Beautiful. So then, finally, before we go,
is it legal or is it right to conduct a test without your partner's knowledge? Because a lot of people do that. A lot of people sit in bars and then they just come up with the whole idea that, oh, I had a conversation, or it has happened to a friend, or I've seen this person go through it, so let me also go and do it. And sometimes you go and do it and you find out that the child is yours, but then your partner finds out, and that is how trust is broken. That is how your home gets broken. So is it okay to do it without your partner's consent?
Okay. As for the legality or otherwise, I'm not a lawyer, so I cannot be able to tell whether it is legal or illegal. But I don't really see any problem. Like I said, it is the basic building block.
Okay.
So if I want to test my blood group, I need to go to the hospital for a blood test to establish that this is my blood group. So if one partner decides that, okay, I need to test for the composition of my children, I don't see why it should be a problem.
Right.
The only reason why it's a problem is because I think we don't really understand what it is.
Okay.
And just as I've explained, it is a basic building block of the human being.
More like your foundation.
Exactly. So if there's nothing to hide, why should I be worried about a test being conducted?
But no,
It's just like,
you don't trust me.
Exactly.
No, that's what I'm saying. That
I don't have a problem, but why don't you trust me? And
No.
why did you not tell me before going to do it?
I mean, well, yes, of course, there should be communication. As for that, like I said, communication is key in the relationship. And I think that both parties, when they have agreed or disagreed, so long as one party has requested, I don't see the reason why the other party should refuse, especially when there is nothing to hide.
Yeah.
And it should not, let's not tie it to trust. Because the moment you tie it to trust, now, there are a lot of tests. In those days, there was not DNA, there was nothing like that. But now there is DNA. And so there shouldn't be an issue of trust in here. You go for what do you call it, visas nowadays. They ask for DNA tests. You know, so it should be something that you already have at hand. Okay, that is why it's good that the partners also discuss amongst themselves and agree that let's have this test done for our children anytime it is requested, it is available. It is only when there is the fear of something else.
But you see,
That
it's
it
not
becomes a
always
problem.
like that. Because we've ascertained the fact that there are times where babies are swapped.
Yes.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. That
And the woman might not even have an idea. So then
that is why it's good, like we were saying, as an advocacy.
But
to
will the
do it.
men agree? Will the men, after they have told the entire world that that Ngozi is not my child, before they even listen to the part where the woman is saying that, babe, let's check for me as well, because instantly, once you were in the labor ward, whether I was there with you when you were delivering or not, the child has to be ours.
Yes.
So if the child is not mine, it means it's yours and somebody else's.
Yes.
But then it's almost at the last minute before we are able to think of the fact that, okay, let's check for the wife too.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that's why it's not. You see, DNA is not about paternity alone. It's about maternity as well.
Yeah.
And that's why the advocacy, if the advocacy is that it should be done at birth, is good. Because then right there in the hospital, you are sure that this is my baby as a mother, and then the father is also clear, this is my baby.
Yeah.
You understand?
Yeah.
But when we let this slide and then it gets into the future, and then as things are going and technology is changing, it is going to get to a time, even before you get what you call it, some accreditations or whatever it is, they ask for DNA, and then he realizes that after all, this is not my father.
My child after all.
You know, then it becomes a problem.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, so to get these things sorted out and cleared out of the way, it is better to get it in the open from the very beginning. That okay, this is the real mother, this is the real father. You know, so that trust issues don't come in at all. Because nowadays, whether you like it or not, you would at one point or the other encounter the need for a DNA test. Like I said, because technology is improving, things are changing fast. When was it compulsory that DNA tests are performed before what do you call it, visas are issued? You know, but nowadays, if you are moving your family, DNA tests are performed for the children to ensure that they are your children. You know? So to forestall such things, it is better to just do it at birth, and everybody is settled. Then it doesn't happen in future that question marks are raised.
Okay, perfect. But let's take you out of the equation now. So take yourself out of your shoes as a counselor, right? And be a man.
Yeah.
A normal human man.
Yes. A man like me.
Yes. So what would you do if you found out that any of your kids are not yours biologically? As a man, not as a counselor, not with all the knowledge that you have.
You know, the first instinct is to be angry. You know, why have I been deceived for all this while? You know, and it would take a lot to get composed.
What's the grace of God? What else?
I promise you.
To get composed, to take a step that would be positive.
Okay.
You know, and that is why last week I alluded to the fact that people end up murdering their partners and then taking their own lives. You know, because of course they cannot take the shame of the fact that they have murdered and they are going to prison, so they also take their own lives.
I think recently we even had a story like that around a shaman.
Exactly. Exactly. So things like that. It is not easy as a man. Like I have been saying all day, to get to know the fact that somebody slept with your wife, and then impregnated her.
It's the same as somebody sleeping with your husband.
Yes.
It's easy like that.
It's not easy like that.
Just the thought of it.
So that's
it campaign, Papa.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. That it is not easy for both partners. You know, to take. You know, and on the part of the men, it is more of an internal fight, an ego being heavily bruised. You know, and that really releases a lot of things in the man. It takes the grace of God, as God said, to manage a man in that kind of a situation. You know, so to answer your question, as a man, of course, I would be angry. I would definitely be disappointed and find a way to settle would depend on who you are,
who your partner is,
who you communicate with.
Okay.
Because in this instance, your partner is out.
Yep.
Even if she's showing remorse, she's still out.
The fact that the news dropped like a bomb. It's at that moment it becomes something else.
Okay.
So depending on who you communicate with, who you associate with, it is easy to either overcome or sway out.
I see.
Yeah. And if you ask me, there are many men also who take some time to ease in, especially when there is remorse from the side of the woman.
Yeah.
It takes some time, but when they are able to manage themselves and their egos and everything within, they accept those children as theirs. In much the same way as the women would accept a man who has gone outside's child
to have a
Yeah,
child.
exactly. So
Right.
it takes time, but some men do
They
succumb.
forgive.
But it's almost often very rare.
Very rare. Very, 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 very rare.
And finally, as a man, what will make you want to, aside health factors, right, or visa applications, what else would make you or raise a suspicion to conduct a DNA test?
One would be, like I said, blood speaks. Blood speaks. So definitely, if the man is not having that connection
with the child.
it may raise easy. That is, if he has done everything to get connected and is not seeing that connection, it may raise concerns.
I see.
And if also the woman is, has question marks, around so many issues, around the child and all that, it becomes easy for suspicion to come into the picture.
Right.
Sometimes maybe you have 3 children or 4 children. Now one is detached, the rest come to the child, come to the father. And then the woman is like, go to your father. Why? Come on, leave the child alone. So if it continues and for a long time, then the man would begin to think, why is it not my child? So then he would be like, okay, then let me truly check to see if this is my child. So things like that, emotional attachments and all that, can raise suspicions.
Wow. Okay. So finally, we can put this case to rest.
Yes.
In Don Jazzy's words, he says DNA tests, according to him, paternity tests are more important than birthday parties and naming ceremonies.
And I stand with him.
Because I mean, in Nigeria, the cases that we hear on a daily, crazy,
there are many.
crazy. And here in Ghana as well, we've heard a couple of them. Overseas, we hear and see stories. Like I said, I watch paternity court a lot, so I know these things are steadily happening. So I'm glad that we were able to have this extended part of the discussion.
Another thing I would like to add about making it compulsory for DNA tests is, there are some diseases that you can catch like early on with the DNA test. So it has more benefits than disadvantages.
If you're clean, why not?
If you're clean, why not? No, but that's the thing. Even if you are dirty too, why not?
If you're clean, why not?
Honestly,
because you see, of some of the shows that we do, even here in Ghana, where it talks, it looks for the paternity of the kids and all of that. They do it, and the mothers are asked. So this person is ruled out now because the result says it's not the person. So who else can you think of? And they are counting. They are unsure.
Exactly.
Why would you put your children through such?
Because it's very difficult to find a cheating woman as compared to a cheating man.
Yeah. How?
It's true.
Yeah, it's very difficult.
When women cheat, it's easy.
It's a fact. When a man cheats, it's very easy.
How?
Oh, it's very easy.
Oh, it's easier to catch a cheating man than to catch a cheating woman.
That's a man who wants to be caught.
No. It's easier. It is easier.
Okay.
It's very easy to get.
Very easy.
Men,
the thing is, they think they can cheat, but they can't cheat too.
Men can pretend to an extent.
If a man wants to learn how to cheat, he should learn from a woman.
Men can pretend to an extent, but when a woman cheats, you see men for a man to have a sexual encounter, medics will tell you that it's like running a marathon.
Ah.
So somebody who has run a marathon and then there is a woman at home waiting to run another marathon. No matter how much you try to run that second marathon, you will fail. And the woman may easily...
She can run 10 marathons.
The woman may easily know that you have, there's something amiss. And there are a lot of things that, you see, that the women have a lot of senses. A woman can be able to detect that there is another woman's scent around you.
Oh yes, that's God has blessed our noses.
You understand? No matter how thousands of one self no go do, they will get you.
Yeah.
So it's natural. That is how God created the women and the men. So cheating woman is very difficult to detect. That is why you can have them counting,
and you're unsure
who exactly it is.
We have a cheating conversation coming up, right?
Sure.
We asked to put a pin in that, so I'm sure when we get there we can explore and then explain better.
Absolutely.
I see that the people in the studio were interested when you spoke about a cheating woman, which means that the mafia them, but they are all hiding low key. But yeah. Anyway, Jonathan is standing by to bring us the sports update. So stay with us, Mr. Jokoto. Thank you once again. It's always insightful having you on the show. We learn a lot, so thank you.
Grateful to be around. Always.
Yes. And Ngozi, what am I thanking you for?
Thank me.
For what?
Thank me.
Yes, thank you, Ngozi, for joining as well. Jonathan is coming with the sports update. Stay tuned and do not go anywhere.
The stage is set for something special.
It is time to go racing.
Garnacho! Oh wow! Oh wow! LeBron James with no regard for human life. You couldn't write a script like this.
Here's Metzer, this is Positive Williams. Kudos! The Korean joy did not last for long.
Oh my gosh, kudos.
Set back for Partey.